Some games are intentionally scary, others unintentionally. With the Halloween season upon us, there's no better time to dive into some good old horror and gore. But what about the more squeamish among us?
Do not be afraid.
Because middle-aged gaming is here to help the courageously challenged by providing a list of the least scariest games. That's right, top 10 lists are easy, so today we'll be covering the bottom. Same thing, different perspective. In the spirit of Halloween though, I'm going to try and sell it, so please take any sarcasm with a grain of salt. But before we begin, I'm told I need to remind you to like and subscribe because if you enjoy our content, it'll make it much easier to find us in the future. And starting us off, since we're working our way down, we're going to start with number 1. Carrion. Have you ever wanted to check out John Carpenter's The Thing, but couldn't get past the frankly spectacular practical effects? Carrion is that, but utilizing the far scarier medium of CG. But I'm not talking fancy high-fidelity CG, no. This is pixel art, because what you imagine is far scarier than reality, and nothing leaves something to the imagination like low-res. If Aqua Teen Hunger Force scared you as a kid, or in my case mid to late teens, you might want to give this one a pass, because you'll be playing as the cutest member, Meatwad. And like Meatwad, the ability to change your shape is what's really going to be getting you through this game. It's a Metroidvania with Octodad-like tentacle mechanics, and a few power-ups here and there. My only real criticism was the game that there isn't a map, so for those with a fear of getting lost, you may actually want to steer clear of this one. Other than that though, I had so much fun playing this game. It's really short too, so it's great for those with a fear of commitment. About 4 hours or so. I think I finished it in maybe 2 streams, Christmas DLC included. Yeah, I know, the Christmas season seems to start earlier and earlier this year, and frankly, that's terrifying. It's looming right around the corner, and that can be a bit nerve-wracking. I myself am an October equals Halloween, November, Thanksgiving, December, Christmas man myself, so out of sight, out of mind until December. But I can't speak for everyone, especially non-Americans who maybe put their Thanksgiving elsewhere. Looking at you, Canada. At number 2, we have Dredge. Thalassophobia is a real problem for a lot of people. I myself have no problem with it, but I am not a fan of seafood, so this game might be equally terrifying to me. Shrimp and squid, tolerable. It's just fish, crab, and lobster that really gets me. But don't let this game's cutesy cel-shaded art direction fool you. There's a whole lot of Lovecraft waiting for you under the surface. Dredge puts you at the helm of a small fishing vessel trying to make a modest living. You'll start off simple enough. Anchovy here, mackerel there. But bills are bills, and eventually you're going to need to up your game if you want to keep afloat. Most horror pits you against monsters. Dredge has that, but there's also the lingering dread of debt. Soon enough, you'll find yourself venturing out further and staying out later to reel in bigger catches while trying to avoid being caught yourself by any number of fathomless horrors. Certain catches only appear at certain times of day, meaning you'll have to brave the dark to bring in the big money. But by customizing your ship, you may be ready to brave the horrors of the deep. But plan accordingly. While keeping your light on may help you navigate rough waters, it may also draw unwanted attention towards your location. Still, probably best to keep the battery charged for that return trip home. Wouldn't want to get caught on some rocks just outside screaming distance from the shore. Which brings us to number 3. Interior Worlds. Are you afraid of being alone? Even if you're not, it's just unnerving being alone someplace where you know you really shouldn't. I'm not talking the buddy system here. I'm talking public places that should be bustling with life, but are simply devoid of people. You know what I'm talking about, like when you had to stay after class for something, and then had to walk the empty halls after everyone left. It's just creepy. Interior Worlds is that. There's no combat, there are no enemies, there aren't any NPCs or quests, there's only you. Well, you and your trusty camera. This game, can we even call it that? This experience is all about exploring liminal spaces. If you're familiar with creepypastas or analog horror, you've probably heard of things like the Backrooms. For those unfamiliar with the concept, it's basically taking the mundane and removing any context from it. It's just a hall, could be from any number of hotels or office buildings. It seems familiar, but it's also unfamiliar. It's the uncanny valley, but for places. And that's the hook. You expect something to happen. You want something to happen. But there are no monsters, no jump scares, no mysteries to unveil. It's just you. All by yourself, completely alone. Like I said, deeply unsettling. Is it scary? Of course not. You're not one of those types, right?
People suck. I'm better off on my own anyway. Quarantine was a vacation.
Okay, actually that last one, that's true for me. Some of the best 2 months of my life. But for everyone else, if you want to make yourself just a little bit uncomfortable, check out Interior Worlds. Next up at number 4 is Undying. Zombie games are a dime a dozen, and let's be honest, zombies really aren't that scary. Dare I say, zombies are the second least scariest monster out there. Second, you ask? Yes, second, only to the 𝙎𝙬𝙧𝙩, aka the Chinese hopping vampire. No, seriously, I'm pretty sure they're featured in more comedies than horror movies. Don't get me wrong, I love 𝙎𝙬𝙧. They are probably my favorite monsters simply because they are simultaneously so OP and so profoundly stupid. I mean, they'll suck out your chi, they can kill you with a touch, they're magic, but at the same time they can't see you if you hold your breath and are scared of a rooster's crow. Anyway, my point is, I love 𝙎𝙬𝙧 and I think they should be used in more games, but sadly, while this game is Chinese, it is not about 𝙎𝙬𝙧. It is about zombies. Regular, old, boring, Western zombies. But that is not what makes this game scary. No. This game is about something far more terrifying. Parenthood. Undying casts you as a mother who has been bitten during a zombie outbreak. Knowing the end is near, you need to make a choice. Teach your son how to survive this apocalypse or spend time and resources trying to make contact with survivors who may take him in. Like real life, your choices matter. Your actions will have an irrevocable effect on your child's development. Show him how to do certain tasks and, soon enough, you'll find him starting to do them on his own. Upgrade his tech tree, and he'll even be able to help you in the field. To an extent. I know a lot of people don't like escort sections in survival horror, but if you're looking for a little extra challenge, why not add the need to care for the well-being of a young child? No pressure. At least there's a reset button. At number 5, we have Slayaway Camp. I prefer a bit of supernatural in my horror. Nightmare on Elm Street, I can get behind. Friday the 13th, But I'm not everyone. That's why slashers are possibly the most popular horror subgenre. But we're not here for the horror fans. We're here for the squeamish. So fear not. Slayaway Camp has you covered. A puzzle game at heart, you play the role of a killer with a bit of a momentum problem. That's right, once you pick a trajectory, you will continue on it until you hit the next immovable object. So finding the right path to your victim is the name of the game here. And when you do, oh boy, voxel viscera at its finest. But like I said, you're squeamish. And if that's all a bit much for you, there are options to reduce the gore, or eliminate it completely. So this is a game for everyone to enjoy. If you like puzzles, with something like 300 levels and tons of collectibles, this is a bloody good game for fans of Halloween, both the film franchise and the holiday. Next up at number 6 is Little Nightmares. I may be cheating a bit here because I could see where some people may be legitimately unnerved by this game. Is it creepy? Oh yeah. Scary though? More of a creeping dread. Honestly, you're not going to face too many jump scares here that will put Grandma's heart in danger. Playing as 6, which is why it's this position on the list, you're trying to escape some kind of facility while trying to avoid being caught by one of the multitude of its grotesque denizens. Take note of your surroundings though, this game makes great use of environmental storytelling, with each room, item, and baddie hinting at what's really going on here. Part puzzle game, part platformer, part stealth. This is definitely a game worth checking out if you can tolerate the uncanny valley commonly found in puppets and stop motion animation. And speaking of that claymation aesthetic, next at number 7 is Lost in Random. If you're a fan of Tim Burton's work, you'll likely feel right at home with this game's sense of style. If you're not a fan of Tim Burton's work, for the sake of this entry, pretend you are. You're playing as Even, a little girl looking for her sister Odd, who has recently gone missing. With the help of your dice companion, aptly named Dicey, you'll go on a journey through a world filled with a lot of colorful and often bizarre characters with dialogue trees that actually matter no less. Living up to the random in its name, this game is part deck builder, part dice roller. As you progress, you'll collect cards which can be used in battle. By attacking enemies or breaking objects around the battlefield, you'll acquire crystals which draw cards into your hand. You can then roll your little dice companion to generate mana, which will be spent on the cards you've drawn. Cards can give you items to use, heal you, magic, you name it. For some, the gameplay may be a bit repetitive and manual aiming can be a bit slow, but if you're a fan of deck builders, gambling, or again, that Tim Burton aesthetic, which we've established you either are or are currently pretending to be, give Lost in Random a look. Moving on to number 3, we have guilt. Growing up can be hard. Growing up can be scary. Growing up can suck. So why would you want to relive the horrors of being a child? Because it's Halloween and we're looking for, air quotes, scary games this season. Yes, I said air quotes because I am too lazy to put in a picture of myself actually doing them. Guilt puts you in the shoes of Sally, who is looking for her cousin Emily. One thing leads to another, and she finds herself in a sort of mirror version of her own town. Think Silent Hill without the oppressive fog or flesh-walled hell dungeon. You know, kid-friendly Silent Hill. Ultimately though, like Silent Hill, this is a story about dealing with real-world issues. Rather than tackling generational trauma or guilt over euthanizing a loved one, however, in this case, it's aimed more at something children can relate to. Bullying. Again, kid-friendly Silent Hill. Unlike Silent Hill, the name of the game here is stealth. Much of your time will be spent skulking about and trying to avoid danger. That doesn't mean you're completely defenseless though. Every child knows that monsters are weak to light, which is why nightlights are a thing. Even a simple flashlight can keep you safe. And a flashlight you will have at your disposal. Rely on it too much though, and you'll be eating through your fair share of batteries, so make sure you've got a few in stock. The game is also pretty forgiving, so if you slip up here or there, it's not too punishing. So yeah, if Coraline is your threshold of horror, you might want to give Guilt a look. If Other Mother was a bit more than you could handle, well, we've still got 2 more games on this list. Runner-up to the best, most least scary game for Halloween, we have Other Side. I cannot praise this game enough. I love Other Side. God, I'm hoping for a sequel. Admittedly, the color palette does do a lot of the heavy lifting here in terms of a spooky atmosphere. Yeah, there are some pretty grotesque monster designs, but the black and white with a splash of red is really what sells it. In Other Side, you are the mother, a chosen one, a person gifted with extremely long life and the ability to communicate with others, manifestations of human qualities and or emotions. You know, things like memory, curiosity, fear. If it came out of Pandora's box, it's likely another. Your job is to save another chosen one, the child, from an other known as suffering. To do this, you basically sacrifice yourself to open up a metaverse where you can tap into your own psyche to summon your daughters to do battle with the forces of suffering drawn from the psyche of the child. Yeah, it's wild. Here's the thing though, there's no healing in this game. Eventually, all your daughters will fall and you'll have to start back at the beginning. That's right, this is a roguelike. But don't worry, each iteration will unlock certain benefits to help you in your next attempt. What I personally found so interesting about this game is that the enemies have very strict rules on how they operate. The enemy AI is extremely predictable, but that's by design. Learning various units' patterns, taking advantage of how they function, and smart use of turns and placement can be the difference between losing a daughter or coming through a level completely unscathed. In a sense, it's more like solving a puzzle than playing a game of chess. That may sound odd for a strategy game, but it just works. And it works so well. There's also some really great background lore here for those willing to do some light reading. As a fan of SRPGs, I call them SRPGs, you can call them TRPGs if you like, I cannot recommend Other Side enough. And finally, that brings us to number 10, Luigi's Mansion. Everyone loves Mario, but you know who really deserves more credit? Luigi. Often relegated to the background, he's just as capable of Mario, but doesn't get the limelight nearly as often. He's humble that way. I can respect that. But there is one Nintendo franchise where Luigi really gets to shine. There are 3 Luigi Mansion games, and you could play really any of them this season. Heck, why not make a marathon of it and play all 3? Set in a haunted mansion, or in 3's case a haunted hotel, the titular Luigi needs to strap on a vacuum and clean out the locale of any pesky poltergeists. The ghosts are appropriately cartoony, so much so that even if you're the kind of person who has to cover their eyes at the sight of a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you should be fine here. With plenty of unique bosses and puzzles to solve, there's also no fear of the gameplay getting stale. Not that at around 8 hours for completionists, this game is out wearing its welcome anytime soon. There's also online multiplayer, so if you're still a bit squeamish about going it alone, you don't have to. All in all, a great game for Halloween and one the whole family can enjoy. And with that, we present to you the bottom 10 most least scary games for Halloween. But what do you think? There are obviously a lot of great games that did not make our list. So what would you recommend for the Courageously Challenged? We'd love to hear your feedback, so send us some suggestions in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can check out more of our gaming content in the future. Every little bit helps and is greatly appreciated. And with that, happy Halloween, everyone!